Welcome to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. Today, we're joined by our usual cast, Nick Mellum and Eric Brown. And our special guest today is Bernie Leng. And he's from Autodesk, and we're going to be talking today about post-quantum encryption. So without further ado, here's Bernie. Can you give us a little background, Bernie, and tell us about your career path, and then we can jump into the post-quantum encryption.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks. I really appreciate this opportunity to discuss this topic. This is kind of important. But before I do that, I want to make sure I give a disclaimer. This presentation going forward is basically not a reflection of my current employer, Autodesk. So none of this is a representation of their position, nor what they're thinking of, and this is all coming from me directly. So just want to make sure that that's clear on that. So just give you a little background, but what my journey has been to up to this point here. I started out working for, having my own small company in Chicago. It's about like 12 consultants or so, dealing with cybersecurity back in the early days of 2000 timeframe there. So in about like 10 years ago, with 2014 or so, I see that the trend of cybersecurity is really ramping up big time. And I was trying to hire people locally in Chicago area, and it's not easy. I have to say, even it's a tough thing. So I decided to branch out into the California area. When I jumped to California, I actually hooked on to two very high-profile cybersecurity person. One was a former CIO of the White House, and the other one happens to be the U.S. Air Force Chief Software Officer. So I reported to them directly, and that really opened up my eye as to what security, in the sense of like the nation, in the large corporate, a large ecosystem, what is it that we're dealing with? So, and that led me to a little step here and there and so on. And now I'm currently working as a liaison for the federal government and my current company. So that's where I'm at right now. That's journey. Last 25-year journey, I would say.
Well, Bernie, thank you for that. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into encryption? Because that's a pretty broad field. And then quantum. How do you bring those two things together?
I think we come back to the basic question. Why do we even need encryption, first of all? All we're trying to do really is to keep secrets, certain secrets that we have. Now, you say, hey, only government has secrets. Well, not so true. We have secrets as well. Our thumbprint is our secret, right? Because that identifies me. That's not going to go away with me anytime soon. So how do you keep a secret? You keep a secret by putting a lockbox, a safe. But if it's going to be digital, you encrypt it. You basically put an encryption on it, and that's what we are at right now. That's what encryption really does, is to keep secret for as long as we could. And being in cybersecurity, our job really is to keep that secret, keep your secret. That's really our job.
And then what about the quantum piece?
Yeah, that quantum piece is an interesting thing too. To keep a secret, we have been doing this for, as long as we know. There's different technology in secret. Back in the Roman Empire days, they have secret too. They use these, these ones, this little charts, so they give it to you, and then get some courier to run out there and give that secret command to the generals and so on. So secret's been around a long time. How we encrypt that is changing based on technology. Now, in secret, we have two pieces that we needed to worry about. One is that data, that information that you got to keep encrypted. That's one thing. But the other piece is that transmission, right? So like the Roman Empire, the first things we have that little chart that they use. That's one part of it. The other one is the courier, the guy who's riding the horse over the other place. If either one of those are compromised, the secret's no longer a secret. So in the current day, we have the same thing too. We have what's called now what they call the data at rest and data in transit. Right? Those are the two terminologies we use nowadays. We have used different technologies to keep those. And one of them that we all know about, we hear a lot about, is TLS 1.2, whatever it might be. Your HTTP, your websites, you all use those capabilities right now. And the TLS, majority of them have this protocol uses an RSA protocol. We've been using that actually since 1970s or so. At least the government's been using it since 1970, but it's kept secret. Government kept secret until about like 1990 or so that became publicly used. And we've been using in the public environment since then. And we trust that. We trust that quite a bit because of the fact that it's been tested, it's been proven, all that. Well, not proven, but it's been tested all these time. And we've come up with patches for it. Well, until 1997. 1997, this is one person by the name of Shor, a mathematician or scientist, I would say, Shor, came up with this algorithm called Shor Algorithm. And he said, well, with this Shor algorithm, with enough computing power, quantum computing power, I can break that RSA security within very short time. And what do you mean by very short time? Very short time is what they call I would call them a log time. Exponential time is pretty easy in the 2, 4, 2, 4, 8 and things like that. Log time is the meant of tens, hundreds, thousands. You can solve that problem in that kind of a timing. So that means, your TLS encryption could be solved by quantum computing in a very short order of time. Well, what's that going to do to us? Our data is no longer available. That encryption key we so fully relied upon for so many years is no longer valid when that capability is available to us.
Generally, we can understand that encryption essentially is a secret key, and then you can use compute power to essentially guess what the password is. And the more compute power you put against it, the faster you're going to be able to guess it. And I think every couple of years there are tables that are published to say that an 8-character password in 2024 can be cracked in 6 minutes, let's just say. And then if the compute power continues on a linear scale, by 2030, a 12-character password could be cracked in, say, 6 minutes, right? And these aren't exact terms, but there's a chart that kind of depicts or tries to guess what compute power will be needed to crack a particular length of password. And it depends on how many characters you're using, numbers, letters, other characters, etc. So when we talk about encryption and we talk about quantum, the quantum piece, and we did a podcast episode where we did a deep dive on quantum with Bill Harris, but that's a pretty heavy topic. So can you maybe break down for us, Bernie, just the quantum side? And I know there's we kind of talk about it in terms of like Schrodinger's cat, and apologies, Nick, this is a little...
That was early in the game.
Gotta get it in. It's early, but I mean, with Schrodinger's cat, it's the premise is there's a cat in a box, and again, apologies, Nick. You look in the box, you don't know if the cat's dead or alive until you actually look in the box. And with quantum, apparently it's either or it's both alive and dead at the same time. And then when you look at it, that determines the observation, determines the state that it's in.
Right.
All well and good on paper. I think we can all grasp that. But when it comes to reality and it comes to actual quantum mechanics, quantum equations that are dealing with encryption, how do we go from that theoretical piece to actually being able to encrypt things in a quantum fashion?
And I would say that instead of looking at encrypting it with quantum, at this point here, our capability now is to reverse and say the secret you have now could be cracked by a quantum computer. That's what we add today, okay? But we will talk about a post-quantum cryptography. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But in the initial time, why is it that we even bring this topic up? Why is the government all worried about it and all that? First of all, because of this public-private key, the RSA public-private key situation that we're talking about, that we actually keep our conversations and so on secret. That is based on a mathematical, factoring. We call them factoring. You take 2 prime factors, you go through an algorithm, this RSA algorithm, come up with 2 private keys. There are 2 keys, public and private keys. And if I keep my private key and those two numbers, I can give you the public key. I can publish a public key, and we can have a conversation. I can know to verify who you are, and then you can use that to send things back to me, and so on. Qualify that. The Shor's algorithm, what it did was, he said, I can solve that problem, that secret public-private key. I can solve that problem now, given enough quantum. I can solve that problem. So it's no longer a public-private. What you think is a public-private key secret is no longer so.
How does the quantum do it faster, though?
Oh, it's the algorithm is what makes a difference. It's based on the theory that it's not based on theory. If we're going to use this capability in a traditional classical computer, it's going to take us forever. That's the reason we've been so lax on it. To say, hey, we don't need to worry about. But the way the quantum computing does things, and this algorithm that Shor came up with, it's basically the interrelationship of, instead of just one and one relationship now, they look at in a matrix format, multiple relationships to solve a factoring, strictly a factoring mathematical calculation, right? So they just solve a single purpose, algorithm, but just so happened that this algorithm is very useful in security wise. Now, quantum computing, granted that you were talking about Schrodinger's equations, all that stuff, that's used in many other areas as well. We know that. But this is strictly on one algorithm that's based on quantum, and they solve this public-private key problem.
Bernie, how long do we have with the current state of things before quantum computing is able to crack all of these encryption methods that we've been using?
Well, come back to the same thing we were talking about earlier, was the fact that we are able to factor these, to the prime numbers. Actually, basically, where the Shor's algorithm and basically the RSA works is you take two prime numbers, you put them together, multiply them with a bunch of manipulations, and you come with the private public key. And for the way we have it now, the prime numbers are pretty long. So, and Shor's algorithm says if you're going to have this long prime number, it'll take a while. It maybe take another 5-10 years or so before we get there yet. The prediction is 5-10 years. A number of quantums that you have, what they call qubits, to get it done. But in the meantime, you say, well, is it real? Does it really work? Can you prove it to me? So IBM did prove that about maybe 10 years ago, or maybe not that 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. They took some really simple numbers, 3 and 5. Now IBM has already come up with 100 qubits on this one here. And I know that, as we go along, the number of qubits will go up, So the question come back to you, Joshua, is how long do you think we would take it? The prediction is with maybe 5-10 years or so, that our current prime number, the length of it, will be, could be broken. Now, but that depends on a couple of things. One, are there computings, are we going to have that increase in quantum computing capability, qubits, as we go along? Could it be faster? Could it be slower? I don't know yet. We don't know yet. So that leads to the question about why is it we're talking about now? Why is it? As a matter of fact, I'm sure you might have seen something. Even the White House came up with a directive to the federal agencies. We have started taking actions on this. Right? And the action they said is you could come up with a quantum encryption. They didn't say that. They said is you need to start taking inventory of what is important to you. What are the secrets you need to keep? That's in 5 years' time, that is still going to be important, right? Like I said, your grandmother's secret recipe, that's going to be forever. That needs to be forever. I need to keep inventory of that, right? So that's what we're talking about at this point in time. That's why this is bring up to be such high level of importance to the federal government and frankly to us as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Bernie, we were talking about how classical computing, which is the computing of today, encryption uses prime numbers to create these mathematical sequences that are difficult to crack or to break. And with quantum, somehow quantum computing is able to do that many times faster, just due to the way that the qubits can break apart those algorithms. And maybe if you could give a cliff notes on that, how does a quantum computer work faster at factoring prime numbers than a classical computer?
Well, I don't think I would be able to explain that in this short time, I'll be honest with you. Short, yeah, I know it's a pretty complicated mathematical discussion on there. And Shor's is the one who actually wrote that discussion there. Shor's algorithm is what we keep referring back to.
Shaw's, like Shaw 256,
No,
example.
not that one. SHOR is a different person. It's a different person. But they are both involved in the data at rest and data in transit. And you're correct on that.
It sounds like you have to have a last name that starts with S to even do anything with encryption. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Didn't think about that.
I would agree with Eric on that.
Yeah, that could be right.
You're talking about Shor's equation for quantum.
Yes, correct. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, that's a Shor's. Well, I guess we call it algorithm for that. And there's another one for the char stuff. The char we talk about. There's a Grover. Grover has that side of the solving that problem. And Grover turns out to be, I guess, from quantum standpoint, is not as efficient. So that would take a lot longer. But the public-private key side is the one that's actually being pretty cracked rather easily. But to look at it, if you are able to crack that transmission when you and I are talking, you can crack that transmission and then track that key in between there. I can probably get that key already, because the SHAR 256 is it's not a public-private key. It's a single encryption key going back and forth, right? So if I can track that traffic going through, it's easier for me to go from there, take the whole traffic, whole conversation, and grab those keys, and then decrypt the actual message in between. So they are related. They're certainly related. That we need to have both. But we talked about the fact that it is all based on this prime factor. This prime number. This prime number that Shor, they will crack the prime number, and the way they did it is there's a couple of things happening in between as well. Even if the algorithm to the prime number itself are easily, I would say not easily guessable. It is guessable because we get those prime numbers from a certain source, and what we call the pseudo prime number, pseudo random number, right? That's how it generated the prime numbers. It calculated from a pseudo random number, and pseudo meaning we get a pseudo random number generated from maybe the hour or the clock, which goes around 24 hours, right? We know that. It might come from, I don't know, things of that nature, right? Which has a rhythm to it. And Shor's algorithm actually able to look at that from a larger standpoint and look at that rhythm and say, you know what? Because with the way quantum handles it, I can handle those rhythms. And they use, Fourier transform and all the good jazz, right? Get into pretty detail about how that works there and get those. And that's why they can go reverse that and find what prime numbers are. What if we have a random number generator that's not pseudo? Is that possible? Yes, there is actually turns out possible because we could photons coming in the photons that hit your watch or whatever it might be. Those are not cycles. Those are not 24-hour cycles, right? A cosmic, I don't know, whatever photon, whatever ton comes and hit that thing. Those are not predictable because those are definitely a random occurrence because nature is random, right? Nature in that sense is random. So there are people actually out there now that's providing those random numbers that is not generated by a pseudo random number generator, but it's actually generated by a pure random situations.
So Bernie, I don't know if you heard about this from when we're talking about random number generation. I think it's Cloudflare. We'll have to fact check this, but I think it's Cloudflare has a wall of lava lamps, and they point a camera at the wall of lava lamps, and they're using the motion of the quote unquote lava in the lava lamp to generate that random number.
Yeah. No, I didn't hear that, but that's a good way to do it, right? That's a good way to do it because those are random natural nature occurrences, which we can predict in the same sense. Not like a clock where it's 24 hours. We can predict those. And they don't come in, you can still say it comes in a external factor. I'm not so sure of this external factor because of heat. You can say the heat, because of the heat generated by the lava lamp, because we have 60 cycles. Remember, electrical come in 60 cycles. So that heat, the filament could be a 60 cycle on that one. I don't know. Somebody might be able to smart enough to figure that out, but I don't. So.
And I think they say that the randomness of people walking by and moving the air or the door opening or the ambient temperature all factors into the randomness of how the lava moves.
Yes, that is, those are good way to get a true random number coming in. And that is one of the areas that we can take nowadays, one of the next steps we can take nowadays to kind of get that into place to protect some of these things here. Now, of course, you and I, myself, as individuals, really can't do that very well yet because we don't have the other layers on top of it. But there are products out there, the systems and products out there that have built those layers on top of it now. And we can look at our vendors and say, hey, you know what? Do you have that in place already? If you have that in place, and I know at least I can trust you that you have the random number, that's a lot more difficult to crack than the ones that we've been using the last 10 years.
Well, I'm going to look at lava lamps differently now.
That's a good name brand, by the way, come to think of it.
So, Bernie, you've been talking pretty deeply about this stuff too. And one thing that we are, and everybody's talking about it, is AI, right? We talk about it daily, weekly. Yeah. I'm really curious to get your take on, what's the intersection, from your industry or, the quantum with AI. Are you seeing that currently, or do you anticipate it growing even more?
I've been thinking about that quite a bit. And there isn't a whole lot of talk about AI and quantum coming together today yet. But I can surely see that coming together. Because if you think about it, quantum as all these qubits, what we call qubits, that interact with each other and all the stuff going down going in this chain, in this chat, in this, I don't call it, what we call it, chain in this machine, whatever it might be, right? But you look at AI in the sense is very similar in that you have one layer, neural networks, one layer, another layer, another layer, and you feed those things across that way as well. That's what, that's what the neural network does. If you think about those two kind of comes together because they're still layer, leading a layer and a layer. One does it in a mathematical way. The other one does it, well, it's still also mathematical way. So I can certainly see the link, how those two to come together. Now, I don't think I have an algorithm for it or an idea how to do that yet. Well, I would certainly see that, in some bright scientists would come up with an idea as to how those two could come together. So yes, I would certainly, I do keep an eye on that piece anyway.
Keeping an eye on these advancements in technology and whether it comes to quantum or AI, from my understanding, it's mostly larger companies like Amazon or Alibaba or Intel that have quantum computers. Is there a threat, an immediate threat in the near term, or is this kind of stuff that we have time to prepare for in the cybersecurity industry?
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. That is something we do need to prepare for right now. There is a thing called the theory going on right now called harvest now and decrypt later. What it means is because you and I talking right now, this conversation is routed through a bunch of routers out there, a bunch of ISPs out there, right? They all keep this information. They could keep all this information that we're talking about right now. It's encrypted, granted, at this point, but they can keep it. This drives us cheap. Keep that 5 years from now. They can use quantum and break this conversation up, whatever it is. If I'm going to tell you my secret recipes or my grandmother's recipe now, 5 years from now, they can crack that and figure out that thing there. So yes, this is a step that we need to take right now to look at and say, hey, that's the reason why the inventory is so important, to figure out where is it that we're going to have the vulnerability in our system. Are we taking certain things, have a long-term security issue, something that we want to keep forever? So we have a time frame where we know right now the lifetime of that secret. What is that lifetime of the secret would be? If it's going to be 10 years, the secret should only be good for 10 years. No, take that. But we also know a quantum will coming in 5 years' time. So, that would be 5 years time. So we have 5 years in between. That's quantum vulnerable time frame that we need to worry about. Right. So yes, we need to start taking inventory of what is it that we want to keep. If something that's look forever, we better start taking action on those. But if it's something going to be like the secret's going to be good for another 3-4 years, well, I wouldn't worry about those, because quantum, by the time quantum computer comes around, I already, that secret's no longer important anyway. So yes, not everything is on the same level of criticality right now, but certain things are.
Yeah, I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, Bernie, like what the government is doing right now. Are you able to expand on that? You were just touching on it a little bit there.
I just like to piggyback on what Nick's question there and say, yeah, what maybe in the government, of course, but also are there any other post-quantum encryption solutions being implemented in the market today?
There are standards being proposed by the government, and I'm glad to say this is not just U.S. government. This is a worldwide government. Every government is looking at the same problem here, and I'm glad that they're working together on this thing here. So they're looking at those. Right now, we have three what's called post-quantum cryptography algorithms that are proposed, and they are not the same kind of algorithm that we have been doing mathematical based. That's not what it was. It is mathematical. I shouldn't rephrase that term, but it is not it's based on a different kind of thinking. They use what they call lattice-based algorithm now, or thinking now on those things here. So it's a different way of looking at how you encrypt things. How do you find those the keys? How you find the keys? And they basic on a lattice-based solution at this point here. Like I said, there are three standards proposed. Nobody has came up with a product for it yet, but it's still a discussion about when that would become available. So step one, get the standard in place first of all. Get that in place. And I think that could be rather quick, in a matter of like a couple of years or so. I think we could have a standard. And now the companies themselves can start working on a actual product to solve that problem, to solve that. The good news is these algorithms, these three standards right now, when you sign on these three standards, they will be on public domain. That is one of the given requirements. If you're going to have this sort of thing, you will provide to public domain. So many companies could use the same idea and come up with their own product algorithms and so on to implement these standards. So that's a good news. Like I said, this is the worldwide government doing this already. So that's good news for all of us.
So Bernie, what work or what are the projects that you're working on in this field? Could you elaborate on those?
I cannot talk about those in the standpoint from what my employer is doing, Autodesk. I cannot talk about that. On myself, I can talk about what I do on my spare time and so on. I certainly am looking into a lot in the algorithm side of it, just the quantum algorithm itself. How does that work, and using different tool sets out there, IBM tools, whatever my tools I have available, that I'm using those tools to formulate my own idea about how to solve these problems here as well. The good thing is these tools are available for free. Well, so long as I don't use it, outrageously, but they are available for free. So I have to spend my free time to do that. So yes.
If people want to go and learn more about this, do you have some recommendations for them? Maybe books or podcasts or articles?
Yeah.
Where could people go to find more information?
Yeah, there are quite a few places actually that publish that out there now. The one I'm talking about, a company called IDQ, and I don't mind bringing them up. A company called IDQ that actually talks about the capability for random number generation, how they wrap random numbers. So you can look at their publications. Of course, IBM has that quantum computing capability. They call them the QuizKit, QISKIT. They have that tool out there for running quantum simulations, or actually real quantum computer. You can even build that too. So you can use those tools to actually learn some of those things. The other, if you really want to dwell into the part about the encryptions and so on, and about post-quantum cryptography, you can certainly go into the government side of it and look at NIST standards. If you just type in NIST, and post-quantum cryptography, you get a bunch of information from them as well.
Earlier in my career, as IPv6 was coming out, I had always said, I'm probably going to be retired by the time IPv6 comes out, because it's just a headache that nobody wants to deal with, right? But now, unfortunately, I'm working on a couple projects that use IPv6, and I've said the same thing about quantum. Hopefully I'll be retired by the time quantum comes out, but it doesn't look like that's the case. It sounds like it's here today. It's almost right around the corner, and we're probably unprepared for quantum, right? We can't even deal with the security risks that we have today, let alone add on top of it quantum. So it's probably an area that we all need to become better at, and certainly learn a lot more about.
We know it's coming. It's just a matter of you are prepared now, or you won't wait till it hits you before you prepare. But take priority. Look at it from a priority standpoint. What is it that you want? That as a company, what is it that your crown jewel that you need to keep from a corporate standpoint? From a personal standpoint, I probably need to worry about a little bit about a few things here and there as far as quantum. Nothing much, but maybe my thumbprint. I just want to make sure that whoever's keeping my thumbprint understands the security of that piece. Things like that. Right.
We were talking about we frequently talk about things we can do to help ourselves protect our loved ones and our own personal computers and businesses. Eric, one of his favorite pieces of advice is to freeze your credit. Is there anything we can be doing right now to kind of be forward thinking and in our own home businesses, personal computers and things like that to prepare for this down the road? Do we need to start coming up with 30 character passwords or?
I don't think password is as important as two-factor authentication. Mm-hmm. Two-factor authentication probably is the one that we need to start thinking about more importantly. Two-factor authentication could be as simple as just having a company, just like the bank, send you another password send you a code into a computer, into your cell phone, right? Those are important items. Just taking two-factor authentication is much more important than even think about a 60-character password in today's world. Right. So yes, those things are important. Yeah, multi-factor authentication is absolutely important.
How is this going to affect cryptocurrency? Crypto has become really big in the space. We all have some. It's right in the name, right? Cryptography, crypto. So how do you see this impacting that space?
Well, crypto. One thing good about crypto is the cryptocurrency, the secret part of it. It's not that long-lived. You think about it, because if I trade my crypto, that's already gone because of my value has changed already and my keys have changed already. What is important, however, is that crypto key itself. That key is important because that basically represents yourself and have it out there. That's still not as big a problem because they can always change that. Down the road, they say, you know what, I'm going to implement this one here, this new, quantum, post-quantum cryptography now. You all switch over to this new capability. That's okay. We can still switch it over, right? So it doesn't bother so much in the cryptocurrency standpoint because our life on that crypto, the secret need to be kept, is relatively short compared to other things out there. And I would sure hope these cryptocurrency companies will be looking at it already before 5 years comes up, right? So to think about how they're going to implement these things in there.
Bernie, if someone's looking to get into the post-quantum encryption space, what could they be doing in their career to be, filling out their resume?
I would say step one is to understand what we talk about the TLS, the current environment that we're dealing with right now. Why is it even vulnerable at this point here? So you got to be able to speak to why are we even bringing this topic up first of all. So understand TLS, understand the Shor algorithm and the char 256 or whatever. We understand those things first of all. And then number two is actually getting into looking at some of these discussions about, like I said, go into the NIST discussions, those NIST publications. They do go into detail about what their current thinking is, how to let us based algorithms and coming up, how do they work? Those are very heavily mathematical discussions. Those are very heavily mathematical discussions. But we don't have to be that. We could be the one just basically bring that tool out to the public, to a mass, for the adoption part of it. But still, understanding where the basics are and those things, I think would help a lot.
You're in Chicago right now, Bernie. Mm-hmm. I know you've spent some time in LA and in Hawaii as well, but in the Midwest here, looking for recommendations for restaurants in Chicago. Can you let our audience know what your top eats are?
I love Italian food myself, and of course I love Chinese food as well, but I like Italian food. So I would suggest going to Italy. It spells Eatry, Italy, right? I like it's a good place. It's nice restaurant, have multiple restaurants upstairs actually, and a grocery store along with it. So if you like to make your own Italian food, you can go there as well. Do
they allow you to bring your cat with you?
You know what? I think we're pretty friendly as far as pets concerned in here. I've seen dogs, but I've never seen cats yet. But you know what? It's always the first time.
Nick, you're in. Bernie Leng, it's been really fun chatting with you today. Thanks so much for your time. We look forward to staying in touch with you and hearing about the developments. Hopefully 5 years from now, we're updating our audience about the advancements that you've been making with your team. And once again, Bernie Leng from Autodesk. You've been listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. I'm your producer, Joshua Schmidt. You've been joined today by Nick Mellum and Eric Brown. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to hear more cybersecurity info. This is your spot. We have bi-weekly episodes every other Monday. Tell your friends and hope to see you down the road.
You have been listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. We are experts at assessing risk and compliance while providing administrative and technical controls to improve our clients' data security. Our threat assessments find the soft spots before the bad guys do, identifying likelihood and impact, while our security control assessments rank the level of maturity relative to the size of your organization. Thanks to our devoted listeners and followers, as well as our producer, Joshua J. Schmidt, and our audio-video editor, Cameron Hill. You can stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity topics by giving us a like and a follow on our socials and subscribing to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you source your security content.